If your blood runs orange and blue, this is the pod for you. You're listening to Orange and Blue Bloods, hosted by EJ Stewart and Tommy Beer. Let's get to it.
The Cavs answered the bell in Game 2. They delivered a knockout blow to the Knicks. The Cavs outscored the Knicks 34-17 in the second quarter and cruised to a 107-90 victory in Cleveland. The Cavs turned the tide of the series with suffocating defense that held the Knicks to just 39 points in the first half on 37% shooting. Meanwhile, the Cavs got a breakout game from Darius Garland, who was red hot in the first half. He had 26 points in that first half. He finished the game with 32. Karis LeVert, who also served as the primary defender on Jalen Brunson for much of this game, added 24 points off the bench. Donovan Mitchell only scored 17 points in this game, but ended up with a career-high 17 assists, so he definitely still made his impact felt in this one. For the Knicks, it was a struggle for pretty much everyone offensively. Jalen Brunson, who had a monster game 1, struggled in game 2. He shot 5 for 17 on his 20-point performance. Julius Randle had 22 points on 8 for 20 shooting. R.J. Barrett was 4 for 13. He added 14 points in this one. So, right out the gate, Tommy, why were the Cavs so easily able to dominate the Knicks thoroughly in game 2?
Yeah, I think if we start in the second quarter, one possession game, 2-point game, back and forth in the first quarter. Knicks hanging tight, not scoring a bunch, but their defense doing enough to keep them close. 9 minutes left in the second quarter. It's still just a 2-point game, 26-24. Turnover by Isaiah Hartenstein. Cavs come back on the other end of the floor and score. And to me, I thought it was emblematic of really what troubled the Knicks. There's been two things, and we talked about going into the series, and we've talked about throughout the regular season, kind of the secret sauce for the Knicks offensively is one of the factors that they really lean on is taking care of the basketball. Third in the league in fewest turnovers per game. Those final 9 minutes of the second quarter, they turned the ball over 9 times, led to 19 points for the Cavs. Really difficult to overcome that sloppiness, that not taking care of the basketball. Again, lead went from 2 points to 20 over that final 9-minute stretch of the second quarter. A total of 14 turnovers in the first half. Knicks averaged 13 turnovers per game during the regular season. Other really important factor for the Knicks is to dominate the glass. We saw that in game 1, had 51 rebounds to the Cavs, only 38. And game 1 was a major factor in the Knicks' victory. Last night, Knicks only get 36 boards, 38 rebounds, out-rebounded by Cleveland 43-38. We'll get into Jalen Brunson. I think he was doing a little bit too much early on, wasn't passable enough. Randall didn't have a great game, didn't seem to be in a great headspace. R.J. Barrett continues to struggle. And the Emmanuel Quickley thing's really disturbing and perturbing and confusing, however you want to call it. Weird. So all those kind of weigh in, but we saw a lot of that, kind of be overcome by a really strong Josh Hart game and a great second half from Brunson in game 1. The final score was a 17-point advantage for Cleveland. It wasn't that close. Knicks really got thoroughly outhandled, especially over the final 3 quarters. And I thought the turnovers and rebounding were primarily responsible.
Yeah, I mean, those avalanche of turnovers killed him. I mean, Julius Randle had 4 turnovers in just the second quarter alone. I mean, that is not going to get it done on any level. But it wasn't just him. Jalen Brunson turned the ball over. You mentioned the Hartenstein turnover. Josh Hart turned the ball over. Quentin Grimes turned the ball over. Credit to the Cavs. I mean, they said they were going to be more physical. They said they were going to be more intentional with how they made the Knicks feel them, and they really turned up the heat. And the Knicks just didn't respond. That's the only way to describe it. I thought that Cleveland, and that's frustrating because I thought Cleveland started that game still nervous on the offensive end.
Yep.
The Knicks were playing really solid defense. Cleveland still looked like they were trying to feel their way through that game, especially because Donovan Mitchell started that game, which I want to get to very soon, not being quite as aggressive. I think Cleveland was trying to feel their way through how they were going to score offensively. And that's why the Knicks got off to like a 8-point lead in that first quarter. So the fact that Cleveland kind of allowed the Knicks to perhaps get themselves into a rhythm in that game. Knicks couldn't take advantage of that in the first quarter. And then once Cleveland kind of saw how close the game was and said, all right, the season is pretty much on the line for the rest of this game. If we don't turn it up now, the season's going to be over. You can't go to New York down 0-2. And they turned up the heat. The Knicks seemed like they were completely befuddled. I don't want to say that they were just saying, okay, we're happy with the split. But I just think that they just did not feel the need or just could not match Cleveland's intensity. And this is what Cleveland does in terms of what they can do defensively. Like they were more physical. I'm not going to act like they weren't, but again, to me, it's less about their physicality and more about their length, more about their speed and their athleticism. And what I saw in that second quarter was it felt like the Knicks were playing in, quicksand and the Cavs were playing on a fast track. Like they're just so quick in their rotations. They were so much better on their double teams and their help defense. And they just use their arms, they're waving, they're being intentional. Like I think it was Wiley who said it during the post game. Like when they were double teaming certain guys, like especially IQ, who came in and turned the ball over immediately. These are not soft double teams. These guys are coming after you, trying to get steals, trying to deflect the ball. So the Cavs deserve a lot of credit. This is not the episode to poo-poo what the Cavs did defensively. They are the best defensive team in the NBA, arguably, and they looked like that in that game. What I will say is I thought Jalen Brunson, to me, he gets the lion's share of the blame for this loss, honestly. Like, I thought he set a terrible tone for the Knicks offensively because it almost felt like he was trying to make up for lost time in the first game because he was not looking to pass the ball. He came in looking to shoot, looking to get his shot, and what bothered me about it so much was, okay, one, you're not making shots, so you think, okay, maybe you got to make a quick adjustment if your shots aren't going down. I know he had a couple guys shots go in and out, shots that look like they were going to go in. But the other thing that bothered me was look at how Donovan Mitchell started that game. Mitchell at 38. Mitchell saw that he could get his against the Knicks, but his teammates looked shook in game one. His teammates did not play with confidence. His teammates did not provide any assistance for him in game one. So he came into game two saying, I have to get these other guys some confidence, get these other guys some shots. And again, it started off not well. Like they didn't play well the first 10 minutes, 8 minutes of that first quarter. But at the end of the day, him getting those guys shots and getting those guys rhythm, getting those guys confidence eventually carried itself into the second quarter when Garland goes for 15 and a quarter. Like Brunson, seeing what he saw from IQ and RJ and Quentin Grimes, he needed to get those other guys involved. He needed to play more floor general start that game. And look, if you go down, then you say, okay, I got to go out there and get my offense. But I didn't like how he started that game saying, I got to get mine first, and then I'll get these other guys involved. Those other guys are struggling with their confidence. So I thought Jalen Brunson set a really poor tone for the Knicks in this loss. And not to say that it's all on him, but I think that was a big part of why the Knicks offense struggled.
Cannot disagree with you there. If we give Brunson credit when the team plays well, we got to knock him when the team plays poorly, and he played poorly. Actually looked up the numbers. This was the first time in his career. He's played 374 games, regular season and postseason. This is the first time in his career he's attempted more than 15 shots and made 5 or fewer field goals. So that gives you an idea of how he was just out of sorts and clearly wasn't productive, wasn't efficient, and it was not a net positive for the Knicks that night. In defense of Brunson, I'll say this. The reason the Knicks won game one was because Brunson put the game on his shoulders, put the team on his back in the second half.
Question.
He was limited to 9 minutes in the first half, came out in the second half. The difference was the Cavs put Jetty Osman on him and basically, said, God bless, good luck, and hopefully we somehow survive. Which was a big mistake. They made an adjustment, and Brunson didn't adjust to the adjustment. I thought you made a great point on how the Cavs rather doubled Brunson. The parlance of the NBA defensive teams is sometimes you'll show on a screen a big show and then scramble back and find, no, the Cavs blitzed double teams. They blitzed high pick and rolls. Nearly almost as soon as he crossed half court, they'd have a guy run at him. And Brunson, the Knicks in particular, and Brunson specifically, did a very poor job of finding either Mitchell Robinson at the nail or skipping the ball across the court when those doubles came. Perfect evidence. Quinn Grimes had 2 field goal attempts in this game. We've talked about how inefficient the Knicks offense can be when there's not balance offensively. And Brunson, to your point, in support of your point, didn't do a good enough job getting these guys looks. I understand what his thinking was. If they're going to run single, a poor defender at me, he made his first shot and Okoro was 2 fouls down, in the first 3 minutes. It looked like Knicks were up 8 points. But again, he's got to adjust when he sees the Cleveland shift their game plan. He's got to be more of a distributor and playmaker than scorer. So hopefully he'll adjust to that as well. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. How assuming and again he's a very high basketball IQ. I expect him to make the correct decisions again. But there were times when Mitchell Robinson caught the ball top of the key and Knicks had it 4-on-3, and they didn't. And whenever the skip
Right.
pass was made or the correct play was made, the Knicks' decisions weren't sharp. They weren't moving the ball. Too much ISO, too much dribbling, and you get 90 points, the second fewest points the Knicks have scored this entire season.
And how many times were they also just not in sync? Like, they're trying to make that second pass and, they're throwing the ball in the third row or they're throwing the ball to the referee. Like, it seemed like guys weren't where the passers thought they would be. I mean, Josh Hart took a ball to the dome at one point on a second pass on one out of those double teams. I mean, the Knicks were not prepared for what the Cavs are going to do. And it is what it is. I mean, it's game 2. You won game 1, so I don't want to just go ballistic. But the fact that they didn't really even anticipate that adjustment is a little annoying and a little frustrating in that standpoint. So they're going to have to get it right. I mean, this was a game that was, like I said, not competitive for a lot of this. At how much concern do you have going into a game 3 because of this loss? I don't want to, emphasize so much on this loss because the Knicks did get what they needed, which was a split. But you go down 29 points. Do you take a large bit of concern from this result, or do you say, hey, Cavs need to get that game? We'll be fine going back to the Garden for game 3?
Yeah, I'll say this. If you would have asked Knicks fans Saturday morning before game 1, do you settle for Wednesday morning being 1-1, head back to the Garden, 5-game series, Knicks having home court advantage? Most fans would settle, would take that.
Yeah.
Look back 6 months, going into the season. If I told you the Knicks would be a 5 seed and have a 1-1 game, heading back to the Garden, you obviously take that as well. Expectations were low. That being said, you don't like to give away a game. But we got to give credit where credit is due. Cavs outplayed them. They out-toughed them. They talked for 2 days about we're going to land the first punch. We're going to be more physical. Basically, the coaches, the players, everyone called it a gut check game. And the Cavs played like the more desperate team. And more often than not, when 2 teams are relatively even, as these 2 teams are, the more desperate team is going to have an advantage. And the Cavs played like a team that's the best defensive team in the NBA, which they were for the prior 6 months. First in the NBA in points per game allowed. First in the NBA in points per 100 possessions allowed. We talked about the fact that they had held teams under 100 points 24 times during the regular season, more than any other team in the NBA. They were 23-1 in those games. So you factor all that in. At the end of the series, it's not who scores the most points, it's who wins the most games. So whether you win by 1 or you win by 29, a win is a win is a win, a loss is a loss is a loss. Now you just got to adjust. Now you got to, make the counter adjustments for what the Cavs did. I think more concerning than the game, losing that game in particular, is fearing that the Cavs may have stumbled upon something that may benefit them going forward. Isaac Okoro plays 3 minutes. Again, the Knicks are daring him to shoot, funneling the ball to him. He's not giving the Cavs anything on either end of the ball. They bring in Karis LeVert and Cedi Osman, but it was Karis LeVert who really scored 24 points. Was, coming in, one of the things we talked about was the Knicks X factor is RJ Barrett. He's been bad. Whereas the Cavs X factor is in many respects might be Karis LeVert. Was bad, terrible in game 1 of 7. Comes back in game 2 and really gives them the punch. We'll talk about Garland, but I thought his play really helped set the tone and establish and keep the Knicks at arm's length. I assume we'll see very limited minutes from Okoro, and then it becomes fascinating. Do the Cavs stick with essentially a 7-man rotation, and that that includes Danny Green playing 20 minutes, who he hit some shots, but can he guard guys off the dribble? I think the Knicks can take advantage of him. And if that core 4 plays 40 minutes a night, they have 3 days off now, so that definitely benefits them. But if they play Friday night at 8:30 and then Sunday at 1, do they get worn down there? Those are things that will have to factor. But as I said, the adjustment going forward is how do the Knicks counteract one, the aggressive double teams on Brunson, and 2 on the other end of the floor. How do they do a better job guarding LeVert? If I'm Tibbs, I don't want Brunson to have to deal with LeVert. You know, I'm gonna stick him on the other. You know, if it's Jetty Osman in the corner, he was 2 of 7, I believe. But yeah, I don't want that to put that responsibility on Brunson.
Yeah, LeVert was fantastic. I thought his defense, he was picking up full court on both
Yep.
Quickly and Brunson. I thought he was phenomenal defensively. Something that I don't really, I mean, I learned he's a much better defender even I realized. That's something he's done for them this season. He really wasn't a factor defensively in game 1, and they didn't try him on Brunson in game 1, which now after seeing his success was a little surprising. But and maybe part of that was because he was so bad offensively, they couldn't put him out there. But he was fantastic on defense. I thought that kind of set the tone, I thought, for the entire Cavs defense. He came in the game and he's picking up full court and he's using his length to bother these smaller guards. And I thought that was a huge difference. And then offensively, he gets it going. The Knicks can't have that. Like I said, to me, this is a 2-man team, really, in terms of offensive creation with Garland, who was red hot, who Knicks going to have to find a way to slow down. And Mitchell, if they get a third guy in there and LeVert, that's where major problems come. So big game from LeVert. They can't afford to have more of those. The Knicks want to win this series. And on Garland, I mean, the Knicks are using essentially RJ Barrett as the primary defender on him, trying to hide Brunson. I tweeted it yesterday. I think Deuce McBride's got to play in this series. I think living with that many minutes with Barrett chasing around a guard as dynamic as Garland is not. I don't think you're gonna get the best from RJ Barrett this whole series if that's how this is gonna work. I think Barrett's working hard. I think he's trying. I think he did a good job in game 1, but I just think this is a upper echelon point guard who is a deadly shooter. And if he sees 1 or 2 go down, then it's look out below. This is a guy who had a 50-point game this year. I think they can't live with that solely being the answer, that we can put RJ on him and that be the case. Now, I know that expands the rotation to 10. We saw Deuce come in for a little brief stint. I think Tibbs going to have to get maybe 3 or 4 minutes in each half of Deuce McBride chasing those guys around just to keep some of these guys' legs fresh, because Garland is a dangerous scorer. And I think that at the end of the day, like I said, this is a 2-man team. So you can't have both of these guys having big games. You can't have Mitchell getting 13 assists and Garland also getting 32 or 26 and a half. Like you got to take away something.
Listen, RJ Barrett is 6 of 25 from the field through 2 games. He's played 7 games in his playoff career now, shooting 35% from the floor, 25% from behind the arc in those 7 postseason contests. The reason, the rationale behind playing RJ Barrett extended minutes is, he's not a great defender, but he's effort, he has length, he can, hopefully disrupt the Cavs' offensive flow. But at least you get the offensive, a guy that averages 19 points a game. Not always efficient, but you can get downhill, draw some fouls. He's not doing it. So if you're playing a guy for his offensive contributions, and he's not only not contributing offensively, he's been a detriment. No touch around the basket, no confidence in his outside stroke, not drawing fouls, not getting to the line enough. I don't see how you can justify playing him 33, 34, 30 minutes a night. I wrote the same thing this morning. I think they got to redistribute those minutes, whether it's more minutes, give IQ extended minutes, and he's been bad. We'll talk about that. Give Grimes more playing time, kind of reallocate those minutes, early on, and bring Hart in alongside. So you have Hart to guard one guy, either Brunson or have Hart guard Mitchell, and then have Grimes guard Garland. Experiment with that, and also bring in McBride, play him for 4 or 5 minute stretches. Again, if he doesn't knock down threes, you just have RJ Barrett with less volume, less missed shots.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Right.
There's not a lot to lose there, so that's kind of my thinking. RJ Barrett hasn't earned those minutes. You come into the series hoping that he can kind of be that X factor, that he can kind of reestablish his stroke, that he'll see a couple shots go down, and maybe he'll knock down some threes and get to the bucket. But it hasn't manifested itself. And you mentioned game 1 again. He's putting forth effort, but Garland was 7 of 13. He just didn't take a lot of shots.
Right, he wasn't aggressive. Yeah,
he wasn't aggressive, and everybody on the street he saw it. He said, screamed at him. His teammates, his coaching staff, his girlfriend. shoot the ball, bro. You know,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what he did. So, and as you mentioned, saw a couple go down. You know, Barrett's just not a good enough defensive player. Can he develop? He's only 20. You know, we talk about this on and on. You know, but at this stage of the game, in the biggest game of the Knicks, you know, season in 48 hours from now. You know, I don't know. I don't feel comfortable trusting him to slow down a player that obviously has the ability to take over a game. So for the Knicks to lose a game where Mitchell scores less than 20 points, you know, granted 13 assists, he was awesome. He did just what they needed to do. But going forward, you know, Garland has shown that you can slow down Mitchell and he can still have a big night. So that's kind of where I'm at. I think we're on the same page that that Tibbs has to reassess things here, and Barrett's probably not the answer.
Yeah, I mean Barrett, he had 7 free throws. I thought in the second half, I know the game was out of reach, but I thought in the second half he started to get some fouls, started to get to the basket a little bit better, not finishing, but at least getting fouls. So there was that. So maybe he takes that to New York, but the leash has got to be shorter on him. That's to me the way it is. If he's not giving you anything in the first half, then you got to try out the guys. This is you know, do or die at this point. This is the playoffs, so it is what it is. So Knicks lose.
You can't worry about feelings and emotions.
No.
This is listen. If a guy's not getting it done, you got 6 months to tweet talk and say, "Hey, still my buddy." You got to win game 3.
Yeah, exactly. So Knicks lose. They get back to New York. Game 3 is on Friday. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below.
Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest podcast ventures. Links will be in the descriptions. And as always, thanks for watching, and we will see you in our next video.